Under the same roof, we share the love. Embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
Tonight on Watching the World, we're discussing a high-powered case in a move that only Calvin Johnson saw coming. L.A. Reid has officially settled his alleged civil lawsuit against Drew Dixon, or Drew Dixon had against him, meaning there will be no trial, no jury, and no witnesses taking the stand at 500 Pearl Street, where we cover these cases so much. This is not about headlines. What we're talking about tonight, we're going to unpack what this settlement actually signals, who benefits from it, and how much does money play a part in this. Tonight we have with us Calvin Johnson, who I'm about to bring on. All right, Calvin Johnson. Okay, we're having a technical issue here. Not sure. Calvin, welcome in.
Hey, man, how you doing? What's going on, Mel?
All right. How are things?
Man, things are great. I can't complain.
All right. What do you think about the settlement?
You know, we discussed a little bit about this yesterday. I figured they would settle, possibly because somebody with the reputation of an L.A. Reid probably did not want all of his personal business to get out there. And don't make any mistakes about this. Everybody is always, well, he must have did something wrong. Sometimes you're doing something wrong, or you're doing something that may even be considered questionable. And when you're somebody of L.A. Reid's stature, do you want all your personal business out there so that maybe other people can come after you, or other people may decide that they don't want to work with you moving forward? I mean, L.A. Reid is huge in the music business. I mean, he is probably one of the top 10 power people in R&B and pop music in the world. And do you want, as somebody like L.A. Reid, all of your personal business out there being discussed just like things got discussed during the Diddy trial? And so it probably gave him the evidence to be able to go in and settle, because he did not want all of that information, personal information about him, his life, his lifestyle, his business, to be put out there. So people like L.A. Reid have a lot more to lose than just your average person. So I always tell people, some people will say, well, he must have did something wrong if he's settling. I always tell people, sometimes people settle because they don't want their business out there.
All right. When it came to Sean Diddy Combs, you predicted by 1 month the exact time that Sean Diddy Combs received. And now for this case, you predicted that they would settle. What do you say for yourself?
Man, you know what? I always tell people, you do this a quarter century. I'm almost in my 25th year of practicing law. This is learned behavior, man. I mean, I use all that I know, all the experiences that I have in life, all the experiences that I've had being a lawyer, all of the negotiations I have been involved in. And I definitely understand when you have somebody of that ilk being sued, that you don't want your personal business exposed. Like I said before, you know, I've worked for entertainers. I've worked for a professional athlete that's now a Hall of Famer. And I definitely understand the things that go on in the background. And as somebody who's worked with those type folks, you don't want everybody knowing your business because when they do, it can cause you a problem. And then also, when you have somebody like L.A. Reid, you got advertisers, you got sponsors, you got record labels, you got him having to be able to continue to do business with other people moving forward. Do you want to do business with somebody whose business has been put out there? Man, when you look at what happened to Diddy and some of the other people that have allowed themselves to end up in full jury trials or civil trials, a lot of people don't recover from that. You may win the war of the civil trial, but may lose a bunch of battles along the way that could cost you long term.
All right, Calvin, I must tell you, you're a gentleman and a scholar. You're the best to do it. I also want to say it's amazing that we have so much support for this show. We've been doing it for quite some time. Would you imagine that?
Yeah, man. You know what I always tell when we first started, we didn't know how this was going to go. We didn't know if I was going to be somebody that's recurring. But when we looked at it and we got into the nitty gritty, when you start going to the Diddy trial every day and you start feeding me information, I was like, man, this is great because I can have discussions with him based on what he's seeing, not just on what happened in court, but the mannerisms of you seeing how the judge was and you seeing the attitude of the prosecutors, the attitude of the judge, Diddy's movements, his eye movements, how he looked, and on those type things, I pick up keys off of that the average person doesn't, and I understand how things go. I was able to predict that Diddy sentence because I knew the range typically would be between 51 and 63, and I felt like because of what you told me and my experience that he would get around that range and he ended up getting 50 months, which was right on time.
All right. So, since everybody has been so kind to us, I want to introduce them to the dream team. We're going to welcome on Candace Kelly.
Hey everyone, how are you doing this evening?
All right, quite well. So, tell us, we have an echo, but tell us, what do you think about the settlement today?
Do you have an echo when I'm speaking right now?
No, it's when I'm speaking.
Oh, okay. So
I
if you
can't
can
hear
hear me
Candace.
okay, I think that this settlement
We
is
can't hear
something.
Candace.
What's that?
Okay, Calvin can't hear you, and
Oh,
I hear
really?
echo. So
Okay.
maybe you have me open on the second screen.
All right. Let me give that a go. Let me give that a go.
Okay, but we can hear you good. Just tell us what you thought about the settlement. Okay, I don't hear you at all now.
Candace may have to log out and log back in. If somebody tried to call her and she's doing it,
Yeah.
it kills it. So that's what happened. But let her log out and log back in.
All right, very good. I'm going to communicate that to her. So let's get back to this whole event for today. She actually showed up to court and she seemed very happy. When I arrived to court today, they said basically that this whole case had been adjourned to the next day. Is that indicative of a settlement right off the cuff? Because that's how I felt.
Yeah, because what happens is people are really hammering out the last details of a case. And when they adjourn something like that, it's settled. I remember back in the day before I became an attorney, I was a project assistant on the tobacco litigation where the tobacco companies were being sued by the state of Texas. And right when we were getting ready to go to jury trial, the night before they settled and the day before they settled, and everybody ended up pushing things to the next day. And what they're doing in the background is they're hammering out details. And that's probably what they were doing in that situation.
Okay. All right. So, Candace, tell us what you thought about the whole settlement today.
All right. First, can you hear me checking in?
Yes, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
Okay, good. So you listen, I thought that the settlement was really indicative of what Calvin was saying, and that is when you put all of your stuff out there, so to speak, that makes it very difficult for you to further do business with other people. And what was going to happen today, and what LA Reid knew was going to happen, was that all the depositions, John Legend was set to take the stand. Drew Dixon, the one who is suing LA Reid, her mother, who's the former mayor of Washington, D.C. I was there in college when her mother was there in Washington, D.C. when I was a student at Howard University. So these are people who were going to take the stand and be credible witnesses. These were people who, when he opened up all of those depositions, we weren't only just going to find out about anything that had to do with Drew and LA Reid, right, Calvin? We were going
Yes.
to find out about other things. And that's something that you don't want. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants all of their emails, their texts. I don't care if you're LA Reid or not, everything taking in and out of context. that is private information that could do more harm. He did the right thing. And I think that this is a fair warning to Russell Simmons out in Bali, who Drew Dixon has a defamation case against. And I think that this speaks volumes to how far she will go in order to make her voice be heard and win her case.
Okay, let me ask you guys a question. Do you think we'll find out how much money will be exchanged in this case?
I don't think we're going to find out. I think it's going to be undisclosed because you don't want that amount to be out there. If you are L.A. Reid, I don't think they're going to find out exactly how much. It'll probably be an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement about disclosing the settlement terms. And if you're getting an amount of money that makes you happy, shut up, shut your mouth and go spend your money.
That's right. That's right. And that's key to an NDA is that nobody speaks on it or somebody's going to lose it. Let's put it this way. It was more than $100,000. Now, I mean, we can guesstimate for a while, but like he said, like Calvin said, we know it was enough to make all the parties happy, meaning Drew, right? So we know that it probably was more than $100,000, and that's just very, very low because she opened this up in terms of sharing her story back in 2017 to the New York Times. She didn't spend all of these years to make a low six-figure number. That's what I can say. And Calvin, you probably have even better idea of maybe the ballpark, but I know it wasn't I doubt it was in the six figures.
It probably was in the seven figures. And then the issue is, and this is what I tell people, as the last 5 or 6 years, we really got into the lives of stars, the business of stars, the business of R&B and pop and hip hop moguls. And we saw a lot of stuff. And it's funny because sometimes I've been around, worked with some of these people, and there seems to be a little bit of an information wall, or there seems to be something that's unsaid when you're talking to folks, and everybody travels in this tight-knit circle, and nobody lets a lot of information out because they don't want to be in a position where maybe one of these people can help them, but they have talked bad about them. So that's the very unique situation that a lot of these artists are placed in. If you had an issue with somebody like a Reid or a Diddy or somebody else, but you talk bad about them, those people can blackball you. So that's the risk you run when you're doing business with these folks. And then when you're in those tight inner circles, do you really want to talk about some of the things you see and risk the inability to be able to continue to work? And that's a very, very interesting dichotomy when you look at all of these situations that have happened recently.
Okay, today, I guess he avoided taking accountability for the actions involved in the case. How do you think this will affect his legacy, especially with him being 69 years old?
Yeah, first I want to make sure you guys, can you hear me, Calvin? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of those things where his legacy involves other accusers, right? So she's not the only one.
Okay.
Candace, can you hear us?
Okay. So I'll just have you answer until she returns.
Okay. Well, what I think too is it does hurt him. I think he's had other accusers before. He has to be extremely careful because, like I was saying yesterday, LA and Babyface are top 3, top 5 all time for producing duos in history. When you talk about R&B and pop music as a whole, these guys are top 5 all time. I mean, they're up there with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis as probably some of the greatest producing duos ever. And the number of hits and the people that they've worked with and the artists that they've developed. I mean, it's a huge deal to have your legacy attacked by allowing a lot of additional information to get out. And I know L.A. Reid probably wanted to protect that because when people talk about L.A. Reid, you don't want them to talk about the sexual allegations or abuse allegations more than they talk about the music that he had a hand in creating. We're talking about, like I said, top 3, top 5 all time.
When it comes to this case, was it the insurance company that pays her? Is it the other corporations like Arista mentioned in the documentation, or are we expecting that LA Reid will pay out of pocket for these allegations?
Typically, it's the corporations. Sometimes it can be a combination of LA Reid and the corporations, but mainly the corporations will pay because they don't want a huge judgment to come back and then they be on the hook for it. So, for example, let's say somebody, they sue them and she gets $100 million because of the lawsuit. Man, a record company does not want that kind of exposure. So a lot of the times they'll go ahead and pay most of it just to settle because he's one of their employees, and they most of the time they're going to take care of it, and usually they either will pay it as a company or sometimes they have some insurance policies to be able to help deal with those type of issues, but a lot of the times it'll be the company and the company's insurance providers that do that, that pay that out.
Being that he's a man that's having great stature in the industry, should we expect that he has a publicist, some sort of dream team to help save his name or what he has left after taking this hit?
Definitely, man. He has the best in the business that's going to be able to clean up his reputation. When I say clean it up, they're going to tell him the next moves to make properly. He'll probably lay low for a while, be quiet for about 2 or 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, and then come back out in the open to do some other things. But they're definitely going to limit the his exposure. They're probably going to limit the media outlets that even report on this. They're really going to try to sweep this under the rug because LA Reid has a number of contacts, a number of places he can reach out to. And for example, if you speak bad about LA Reid, he can basically stop your publication or your channel from getting interviews from his artist. So when people think about that, these are the kind of powerful people. This is the amount of power that somebody like LA Reid has. Even when you want to report on him negatively, you got to think about it, because if you want to end up trying to interview or do business with one of his artists, he may shut that down. So that's why people are very delicate when it comes to people like him.
In the complaint, she mentions Russell Simmons, that he had basically did similar things to her. Let me ask you a question. I don't know if you can answer this. Being that he left and I guess he moved to Bali, is that something that Sean Diddy Combs or people that have major cases can also do to avoid legal ramifications when it comes to the federal government?
Sometimes it is because you have to try to serve him, and sometimes you can avoid service by moving in a place like that. Now, I'm going to tell you, I definitely want, if these guys are doing this stuff and they're doing stuff to people that they should not do, I want them to be held responsible for it. But I will be remiss by not saying there also the other side of it, where I've seen women go in and be okay with some of it initially, and then when things don't work out, they go sue the guy. So I would imagine that some of that is happening as well. But let's be honest, a lot of these moguls feel like they have so much power over these women. They feel like they have so much power over these situations, and they use that power to be able to do what they do. But when it comes to serving somebody with a lawsuit, there's some people that move out the country because they're trying not to get served, and they don't want to be. They want to make it difficult to try to sue them.
Okay. When it comes to these civil cases such as Trump, Diddy, I'm starting to see civil cases turn into federal cases. Is that common?
It could happen because once you start doing it, like you said, if you
Uh-oh.
investigations, things could come out, and then it could cause you problems. So let's say in the civil suit, they realize A, B, C, D happened. And that's another thing that LA Reid probably had to think about. Well, what if A, B, and C comes out and somebody decides to do an investigation? Nah, man, you need to shut that down. Pay the money and keep it pushing.
Okay. All right, Candace, you're back. Tell us what you think in regards to his legacy going forward at the age of 69 in these claims.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that this is one of the things that he's going to be talking about, and that we will be talking about further than his legacy, because these lawsuits, they just have a tendency to do that. They rise up at a time where, as we were talking about before, people are paying attention to these types of stories. It's in their regular algorithms. So it's hard not to say L.A. Reid today without talking about Drew Dixon and any other of his accusers. So I think he's coupled with the Diddy's. He's coupled with Russell Simmons. He's coupled with all of these people. So unfortunately, and this is what happens to a lot of people, it's his legacy is going to be paralleled with all of these accusations. Before I dropped off, there was, okay, he didn't admit to any guilt. Will that do anything? Well, generally, people are kind of smart enough to know often that is strategic. So they don't put put a lot in. Oh, I'm not admitting any guilt. That's really just to move the legal process along, and we know exactly how all of that works. So, unfortunately for him, it will tarnish his legacy. For Drew Dixon, she is saying today, as she said in her press conference or when she was outside of the courthouse, I can hopefully move on with my music career because she said it stopped her from doing so. For people who aren't really familiar to and want to learn more about this, and I don't know if you mentioned this, but On the Record on HBO is a really good documentary to watch, just to give it some context, to look at a different side. And certainly, do your own research. But that was one of those things that came up and that we're going to hear about in her defamation suit against Russell Simmons. So you're going to hear a lot more. If you haven't heard Drew Dixon's name before today, trust me, you will hear it a lot more.
I just want to ask you a question. What do you think about the individuals that say that this is a money grab by the female? What do you think?
Yeah, that's interesting that you would say that because that is something that Russell Simmons said in his interview about Drew Dixon, and that's how he got himself caught up in a defamation suit. But for those people who are in the comments who are just saying, "Hey, this is a money grab," and things of that nature, I think there's something people need to understand about the justice system, and this isn't for Drew or against L.A. Reid. It's just that when you are in the legal system, it's not only you just planning for it, your whole family has to plan for it, the finances involved, the time in it, and eventually it might just exhaust everyone. So when you say, "Hey, this is just a money grab, that's why she settled," and no, we don't know the circumstances. I mean, she filed a lawsuit, and the court actually went ahead and said, "Yes, you can go on." It didn't survive the motion to dismiss. It was left for a jury to decide. So I think that the justice system has gone through its process. But if you are thinking to yourself, "Hey, I don't think that this is something that Drew Dixon is being truthful about, because now that she got her money, she's just going away." That's generally how it happens. The system will exhaust you, will it not, Calvin?
It will. The other part about it is when you're dealing that have that power. I mean, we're talking about they can decide if your stuff gets played on the radio. They can decide if you're on the top TV shows, if you're on the top music shows, or you're at the top of playlist. If you get to tour, if you get product placement, if you get artist placement in certain things, these people can control your life. I mean, I would tell people all the time, the music business is not always about talent. Sometimes it's about who you know, who you're working with. And I'll tell people, I've seen hip hop artists that can out rap anybody I've ever heard, but they're just local, or they're just doing it on the side. And a lot of that is because they're not in the industry, and some of them have not trained for things, or port placement. And so I try to tell people the music business, especially after watching what has happened with L.A. Reid, especially what has happened with Diddy, and how Cassie's career slowed down. And when you look at some of the other things that have happened out here, These moguls can really control the destiny of your life, your music, and your future.
But here's my question. Do you think that's changed now that we have the internet and there's so many different avenues of getting your music and your word out? I want to hear what you have to say. We'll start with Candace. I'm going to unmute you.
Yeah, I think that this is one of those things where when you get a Sean Combs and you see it played out the way that it did in the middle of a RICO trial, albeit we know that that RICO part did not stick, I think that it would be empowering to a woman to say, you know what, uh, you better stop, or man, you better stop this, or I'm reporting this, and we know where this can go because we just saw it from, May when that trial started until he got sentenced in October of this year. I would say that if I was someone who was at work and felt like, oh, I don't think that should have happened with that person when we were privately in a cab or something, I would probably feel very empowered at this point. Now, that's just my personal opinion. But then you also have to have the gumption and the wherewithal to go through the process, report someone, face it, interrupt your job, be the person who's going to be at the end of, jokes and talks. It's not just, hey, is this a good time to do it? You got to go through the whole thing. And it's a very, very big step, which is still why a lot of people don't do it. But it is a very empowering time. I will leave it there.
Okay. Calvin, what do you think about that?
Even though you're in an era where you got the internet, you can push your music on your own. The machine is still in control. And what they started to do, and if you notice, they went down the penny percentages to fractions of pennies when they play your music on YouTube or they play your music on Spotify. The machine will morph to allow the powers that be to still control it. So you have more of an opportunity to put your own stuff out, but it gets to a point where the machine eventually is going to try to come down on you. And that's part of the reason why you see some of these things happening. You had a lot of empowered people making decisions on whether your stuff gets played or not. And then what happens to you. I was listening to the story of LMA, who has this song Boot Up and all the stuff she went through before Boot Up actually hit. And when you talk about having the ability to get your stuff out there, you can be signed to the best people and you can try to do all of this stuff. But it was a combination of her uh, having her own hustle, trying to get her music out there, and actually being and working with DJ Mustard for a long period of time. So you got to have a mix of getting it out there yourself. But let's be honest, the machine and the system has to somewhat be behind you for you to get to where you want to be in today's music business. And that's what scares people from actually speaking up and going against these people who are doing misdeeds in their leadership positions.
As we see more and more cases, especially when it comes to like Tyler Perry, you actually see men coming forward with 240 million and all of these big numbers. Does this desensitize people when it comes to these type of cases? Because we're seeing so many. I'll start off with you, Candace. I'll unmute you.
Do I think that it desensitizes people? I think that we are, again, with social media and the way that we see cases and from information and the way it's shared. I mean, this is way different from just 10 years ago. I definitely do think that we're desensitized in a bit. But along with that, I think that we are also smarter consumers, if you will, of the news and we show support for people. We understand a little bit more how the law works because we're so engrossed and invested in these headlines. And I think that it might balance it out. The people who we hope are not desensitized are those 12 jurors who actually, and the alternate jurors who actually make it to the case. And that's a process that we go through. Those are the people that, when we talk about desensitization, though, those are the ones who we need to be worried about. I do think that we have heard so many headlines and that there are some people who are not filing these lawsuits for anything good, and it may not be the truth. You never know. But I do think, I just think that we allow ourselves to wait for the process as really good consumers of the law.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Calvin, about that?
Say that. Ask the question again.
I said, what do you think about that?
In terms of being consumers.
Well, with people seeing so many cases like with Tyler Perry, now he has two men coming forward, 240 million. They are asking, does this, desensitize the general public about cases and the way people look at it?
I think as consumers it does sometimes, because it seems to be the norm where people are going to get sued. But let's be honest, were we concerned about some of this? We had heard a little bit about this stuff going on in the background. And with Tyler Perry, there's always been a question about his orientation. And there's always been a question. And because of the character he plays, does he see people in that kind of form and fashion? And so even though up until the last 2 or 3 years, we hadn't had anybody come out, but you had two people come out recently and make these accusations against him. I think we kind of knew that that was a possibility, but we did not know to the level of the level that it was happening. And I think that probably people like that uh, and citizens in general, we do become desensitized to it. But what happens is when you have a person that has that kind of money and power and these kind of allegations come out, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if somebody makes it in a reasonable dollar amount demand, then you have no choice but to fight them, because you're not going to give your entire fortune away to them. And so what happens is you end up having these accusations coming out. And let's be honest, with Diddy, with L.A. Reid, with Tyler Perry, and a few others that have come out, Kevin Spacey, I remember they used to do that show, House of Cards, and the stuff that came out about him. Nowadays, man, I think we're becoming desensitized to it somewhat.
Okay, very good. So we've reached our time. I'm going to have Candace, could you give us some closing words for the crowd?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting that we ended with Tyler Perry, and that we are going to see what his strategy will ultimately be. And ultimately, when you look at all of these cases, whether it's a defamation case that Drew Dixon has against Russell Simmons, or sexual assault case that might be in the world of Tyler Perry, it ends up all being about strategy. Will he settle? We saw what this did for L.A. Reid. And I just want and hope that people will be good consumers of the news and the law to understand that when it comes to settling, when it comes to strategy, that these are just available opportunities that we have if we are part of the justice system. And we saw how L.A. Reid handled it today. This was part of strategy. This is how he decided to do it. He had the right as the defendant to go get his Sixth Amendment right to a fair trial, a speedy trial. He did not take it. That was his option, and that was her option too, to actually accept said settlement. It was in her court. So that's the takeaway that I'm getting from today's headlines with L.A. Reid.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, Calvin, tell us what you think, your final closing words.
This is almost a new norm, everybody. I mean, when you look at somebody with the power of Diddy, somebody with the power of L.A. Reid, somebody with the power of Tyler Perry being sued with these kind of allegations, sexual allegations, and using their positions to run and control people to get them to do things that they don't want to do. This is the new norm. And I don't think this will be the last time that we hear about something like this, because there are a lot of powerful people out there doing a lot of powerful things. And when you have a lot of money and power, sometimes you can get a little loose with what you think you can get away with. But I think in the day of social media and the way the internet is, and the empowerment that people feel when they see people like her go and file lawsuits, I think those days are going to be shortened, and people are going to really, really watch what they do when they're in control and they're powerful people.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank you guys for coming on this morning. I went to the courthouse. I had to get up at 3 o'clock this morning to be there on time for basically a case that did not happen the way we had envisioned with the whole jury selection today. And when they said it was adjourned, I kind of figured this was going to turn into a settlement. So I was looking forward to the trial. You know, I like to cover these trials and come back and hear what you two fabulous professionals have to say. You guys operate at a high level. It's an honor to have you guys on Watching the World. I think that this is, my work is done to have people like you, both of you, in my corner. So thank you so much. We look forward. Right now, Candace is on vacation and she came on board. So we look forward to doing another show when everybody is settled. And we thank you so much. And I want to tell everybody in the audience, thank you for all the support and have a good night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Different voices, but the same song. Building a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the flame remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.